You're just stalling so you don't have to do your presentation.
That could be.
And we're all looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it. This is the Bob, and Linda's Great Utah Adventure, where they're going to tell us all about where they went and where to camp and where to dig and where to find all the good stuff. Okay, and they're going to tell us the competition that they had to find the best stuff and where they broke down and all that good stuff. So, if you guys would like to begin.
Let you start, Linda.
Oh, you have it right there. Utah field trip. Bob, and Linda.
Bob and Linda.
How do I get it to advance? There we go.
Okay. And if you read this here, we were on our way out there, and we got behind a semi, followed by a pickup pulling a 30-foot camp trailer, and the three of us are following them up a similar grade as this picture here, when all of a sudden, coming off to the right side of the camper, there's a wheel with a tire attached. It's rolling up the road, but not quite as fast as the unit was, and it finally rolled off of the road into the ditch.
Really?
So that was our initial experience getting out there. Here's a map that shows once we got out to Salina, Kansas, or Salina, Utah, that line shows where you turn off and you follow the route to get you up there going to Dugway. And I believe next we should have a map that we'll follow that shows, oh, here's a little site that was on the way up there.
That's Endeavors. Yep.
Horses out there, probably 10 or so of them out there running around out in the open.
Look at their tails, all go the same direction.
Okay, this is a very simplified map of the road to Dugway from Delta. And the road we took to get there was going out of Delta, following that line that goes past the curved road, heading off to the left. And then you make the jogs, and that road will take you up to, it says 215 up there. And Bob and I were both talking about the distance here, but I do believe that distance is probably incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at this where it says the 25.5 miles, that next turn off, what Bob always looks for is two stop signs, one on either side of the road. And that's where you turn. If you go on up to where the next one is the Topaz Mountain turnoff. And then if you turn there, you have to go down and catch that other road to get back to the turn going up, which follows right along the mountain range, exactly like it shows here. But about halfway up there, there's a double switchback. And you have to make a really sharp left, go down and around through the creek bed, and then go up and hang a quick right. And if you're not careful, that thing
will scuff on you.
Yeah, it just pops up. You don't have any warning because there's nothing there. Sometimes there's a sign that says that it's there, but part of the time it's down. So you have to really be careful at that one spot. Then you just go up to where you see the metal water tank. You'll come to an intersection there and hang a left, follow that up and around over the mountain and keep on going until you get to the sign that says Dugway.
I'm just glad Bob knew where he was going, because we were in the middle of nowhere. There were no signs on any of those roads, no labels, no nothing.
Just means I've been there too many times.
Yeah, and it's out there so far away from everything. You have absolutely no service And we're talking of any kind.
Of any
No
kind.
phone, yeah, no phone service. Once you leave Delta, there is absolutely nothing out there for you to go to get any kind of help. Unless you meet somebody on the road or somebody shows up where you're having a problem, you're not going to get help. So you really want to be prepared to be out there by yourself.
And that's why I love it so.
So that's where we camped, middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we were off out there. And if from this picture on the right side of where he took this picture, actually where he's at, and on the right side there is one of the pits that was the old claim.
Or the
Where
old
they-
plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people just go and look on that rise there, not realizing that they're looking at all the tailings rather than going into the pit and digging. Like these two people are doing. Yeah, it is. And you actually have to go up over in there and get down in there. And if you're starting in, and it's been a while since it was dug, the first few inches is really hard. It's almost like rock. But once you get through that outside dried up surface, which is mostly going to be gray, then you're going to get into white to pink perlite. And I don't know if we got that picture in here. And while we were there, late in the night, after dark, this vehicle shows up and parks up the road a little ways from us. And the next morning, lady's walking down the road and she says, "What's a geode look like?"
Oh, yeah.
So it turned out that I went and caught up with them after about an hour, after we'd shown her geodes, and found her and her mother up around the bend a ways, and they were looking at stuff. And, they're like, "Well, we're not doing so good at finding geodes." And I just started picking up little small geodes from where they were, And then finally I picked up one and her mom said, "I asked you about that." And her daughter said, "I didn't think that was a geode," And so I asked them if they wanted to come over where we were. And so her daughter came over where we were, and her and I dug together for quite a while. They turned out to be from south of Denver here, down in Palmer Lake. And here was a little problem with the tire.
Only on the bottom, right?
Yeah, only on the bottom, and it happened right after we got there. It's like, geez,
That's the second time I've got to flatten that spot.
Yeah, whatever's there, he hits it out every time.
What is it? What did it turn out to be? What flattened it? Do you know?
We don't know.
Something punctured it.
Yeah, it just, it's probably a sharp rock, because those rocks are really sharp out there.
Like on how they look?
And pointy, which means that they will go through a tire.
There's cactus out
Okay.
there that'll do it too.
Say that again?
Cactus will do it.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of cactus right there, but there are a lot of sharp rocks. So it was just one of those things that happens. I guess it's a test to see whether you can make it through. And here we have some of that clay with parts of geodes showing. And this one, you can't really tell it real well in this picture, but there is a geode right near the middle of that picture, right below that line, darker line coming down from just off to the left of center there, kind of angling over. That's a side of a geode sticking out there. So you can see there's some pink and there's gray. This is a couple of the pieces that I pulled out and brought home. Now we're going to hopefully get into something that's a little more exciting here. Here's the one that I cut. Turned out to be pretty solid, but it does have some area in there that should shine up. It had a tiny, tiny little bug in it, but it was so small that it was unreal. This is a bigger one that I cut. That one is actually about 6 by 9 inches. This is under UV light, showing a section of that under UV light. Here's another one that I brought back and cut that one. And it didn't quite come out with the owl shape. Like you get those more from New Mexico. This is under UV light, and most of them will shine green.
Oh, yeah.
This is a chunk from previous trips. And there it is under UV. This is my favorite thing to do with my geodes, is make butterflies out of them. And there's under UV. And there's my one from, what was that, 2 years ago, Bob? The one in the middle in the back, the scream face?
Yeah, I believe so.
So I've
Yeah,
actually
I
got
think so.
this pictures of this will show up in the show, and these will all be included in my case that I'm doing. The majority of it is Dugway geodes. The butterfly on the bottom is not from Dugway. It's actually from Rockhound State Park, New Mexico. But it's a tilt agate, which if you, I don't think there might be one without UV in here. You can see all of the lines. Yeah. And you can see how much help I was.
Yeah.
And this is just some of the rocks that are there, you know. This is wandering around looking at the ground, because when you're there, there's a lot of shiny little topaz laying around.
Nuclei.
I don't know. Right. It only takes 2 weeks to go clear in the spring. Yeah.
And you can see that it's kind of one of the ones that we call a sandy because it's got a lot of sand included in it. So it shines really well in the light, but it doesn't really, you don't have a clear section. There's so much sand included in it. And those come in formations, and some of those formations create wonderful little
Animals,
I don't know,
goblins.
yeah, it's just like all kinds of weird little shapes and crevices and everything. And sometimes if you get really lucky, you'll get one that actually looks like an animal skull or something, and you might have a sandy topaz sitting in it. So it's kind of cool. But here's
This
what
is
we
where I
really
split
want.
rocks.
That's what we go for. That's what we really want when we go is you want the larger, really pretty cherry colored topaz.
Yeah.
And these are the adventuresome two that went on up the hillside while I stayed down below because I didn't feel like traveling up the mountainside. There had been moisture there recently, so we got a little water hole here. But you can see the surface of that stone, how that stone had all the rough little holes in it. That's where a lot of sandies would have shown up. So you can see all the holes along through there. There's some areas that are just really full of holes everywhere. And that's where you would look if you wanted to find the crystals that are sand included. These are some that we got actually the year before because we were following a seam. You know, they're not going to be big. You know, most of these are only going to be, you know,
Be up
3/8
to
inch.
about a half inch, or it's mostly small.
Yeah, they're small, you know, but they're really pretty.
Have you, this is John, have you ever found any of the red burl up there?
I found one tiny
No.
little piece, one very, very tiny little piece, but the red barrel is way high up on the cliff. And they've actually had people who died from falling off of that cliff. But you have to go really high up on the cliffside in the far back kind of left portion of the pit. There's a claim up there that's kind of in the middle, and they push you way on really super rough road to get you back around to where you could even start climbing up there. And they'll come yell at you if they think you're anywhere near their claim.
And that claim seems to grow every year.
Yeah, they flag off a larger zone, whatever they think they can get away with. A little bit of wildlife there. This one you probably may have seen in the calendar. This was one. And there were golden eagles out there. More of the arch. From there were several different arches out there. Okay, we moved on. Now we're off of Nodum Road.
No. That's a
Oh,
this is the or they call it the Willow Springs Wash. It also goes by the name Glass Cants.
This was before we got there, Bob. This is when we were out there, near Escalante Canyon?
Yeah.
When we were out doing selenite?
Yeah. That's the Wilson's Creek.
Okay.
Or willow spring.
So that's all selenite that was out there. And of course, we had to go get some. You can see that really nice sparkle on the side. You know, and it comes in sheets. You know, I mean, it's what it is. You know, you can.
It looks like there's a starfish over on the left. What's that?
Well, that's a reflection from the selenite in the sun, and there were two down below also. But that whole hillside just lit
spark-
up. You know, it was sparkling everywhere because it's just full of selenite.
The first one is, well, in the book, it's side A. And is that the one with all the stromatolites, I believe?
Yes, that's where that was too.
Yeah. But yeah. Barite balls. Agatized
Another-
barite balls.
Yeah, another location.
And yeah.
If you have to really look at that hillside close because that's where all those little balls work out of.
Some of them are and some of them aren't. I think the stuff out there is mostly barite. Well, I know 3 different spots you can find it. Well, I know 2 places of agate. In the Yellow Cat area, you have the agatized barite and you have the regular barite balls. Well, get me better, damn it.
Here we are coming and going. Or going and coming. And just some of the scenery from around there. It's a wonderful place to go and just look at the scenery. This is, obviously there was a heavy rain before we got there. The road going there, at least 2 of us slowed down when we came to all those washed out ruts.
But
And so tried to avoid hitting them and blowing our tires. But you don't often see killdeer out there, and there was a killdeer playing in the water. Now we're at the foot of the San Rafael swell. And this is what we went there to get, was brain rock. And of course, there's some jaspers and other things, you know.
right.
Nice sunset. Then we moved on to a new agate collecting site.
Oh, pigeon's blood.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we moved on down the road So Bob Johnson had left us by this point. So Bob Piper and I were up on our own, and we had headed off down through the boonies. And you can see that really long line on the left there, and then it circles around. We made it was like a 250, 300 mile trip going out around there.
Eric, really?
And the reason that we had to do it the way we did it is because if you look to the road down there where we're making the loop, part of that loop is 276, and you see that the lake is down there, Glen Canyon Dam is down there, Lake Powell. The ferry was closed because there's no water. They couldn't run a ferry. And then over on the other side is Highway 95, and where we wanted to be, obviously, was over where this other blue line on the right side goes by the end of this. But 95 was closed between Blanding and 276 somewhere, so we couldn't go that way. So we had to come down. We made that big old loop, and then we went all the way back up to 70, and then went back. So where we went, I never would plan to go on the ferry, but because knowing that Lake Powell was so low, I was sure it was closed. And so when we turned off of 70, you know, immediately there's a sign saying that 95 is closed at a mile marker that we didn't know where that was. But then when we got down to 276, I told Bob, well, it's you know, we're going to find out that the thing's going to say that the ferry is closed, which there was a sign that said the ferry was closed, but we still hadn't run across the closure on 95 yet. So we knew already before going all the way down there that we were going to have to go back up and around. That essentially from where we were, there was no easy way to do it.
Right.
So we went down here, and where we wanted to go was somewhere beyond Star Springs. And if you, this is.
And say again why Highway 95 was closed.
We never did find out why it was closed, but it was closed between where we were and where we wanted to go. So
it was closed within the last 10 miles before you'd reach the other highway.
So, you know, it was pointless for us to try and go there. It said you couldn't get to Blanding that way, so we didn't try to go that way. So we weren't concerned about why it was closed, just the fact that we had to go back and go around. And they let you know with many signs that you're not going to get through here. So, unless you just wanted to go to the edge of Lake Powell and hike down to the water, there was no point in going the rest of that distance. Okay. This one happened to be a point that I brought back that has calcite in amongst it. So, and these were what we were going after. They're not very good examples because we didn't find really good examples, but and I haven't cleaned them, but I think they might be
probably copalites.
You know, I don't think so because you know they were pretty rounded, you know, and we were
bad version of the agatized barite. Looks like.
So anyway, moving on. This is what we dealt with for, I don't know, over 100 miles. This is one of the better places. I failed to take a picture of the one where we had to actually stop and throw more rocks before we could get across. But every time you come to a little low spot, the road was washed, and some places were much worse than other places. And then when we did get to the point where we thought we would be able to cut across and get back to the highway in a shorter distance, I said, I think we need to go this other way. So I added almost 100 miles to our trip. And then, of course, we had to cross this small creek here. We found that a couple of places in there. But, just you're driving along and all of a sudden, boom, you got another rough spot you have to slow down for and see if you can get across. But we stuck it out. We kept going and going and going. And eventually, after we got through all of these rough washouts and everything, this is just one of the mostly clay mounds that were out there that we drove along, and we were, at this point, we were not wanting to stop and go wandering around. We were more worried about, are we going to find our way out of here, or are we going to be camping out here? But
No GPS?
Say what?
No GPS?
There's nothing out there,
Why
had no
take
way
all
to
the
know
fun
where we
out of
were.
it with a GPS?
What's that?
But we drove that whole road back there that we had been on, that was all that dark color. That had a lot of coal in it. Of course, there was tons and tons of selenite in that whole thing. And as you're driving along, you're crunching selenite because it had been long enough after the rain that it had all solidified again. And so you're driving along and you're hearing the crunch of selenite under your tires because it's all through that section. So now we've gone all the way back up and we got to that other one. This slide might have gotten out of place.
Yeah, that's heading for
But
the copper mine.
This is where we went out there looking for the agates that were out there. And it said it was a short distance. And of course, it was a very short distance. And you have to open the gate, go through the gate, close it, go up around the hill, and you just keep, you look, and this is Bob bringing back his little stone.
It's in the front yard. Let the weather wash it off.
That's the Looking Glass Arch, which was right down around the corner from where we were. And this is where Hole in the Rock is. This was in Moab. Somebody made up a tow mater sitting in a bank parking lot. So here we are. That little leg there at the bottom on the left of the one on the right is where we went to Looking Glass Arch. Then we went back to LaSalle Junction and came across over on trying to remember the name of that road. It's just before you get to LaSalle.
Oh, wow. 93? Not 198.
Yeah. I think it was 93 that we were on. It was 93 that we were on. You turn before you get to LaSalle and then come down. And we had gone way past where the mine was that we were headed for, which was the Blue Crystal mines.
Yeah.
Not realizing it, because the directions that I got were totally off. And of course, the next day when we're supposed to be meeting this guy, he sent me a text that I was able to get, randomly popped in on my phone from where we were. But we'd gone way past where we needed to be and actually stumbled across another area where we could find azurite and malachite.
Yep.
We were finding the little
Wow.
pieces of malachite and finding azurite balls, and they call them blueberries. So we were just happy because, we camped there and we looked, and then in the morning I said, we got to go back, because we had looked around where my maps thing was trying to send us to, and it actually sent us to a active copper mine.
Yep.
But that's not the one we needed to be at. So we had to drive almost all the way back to LaSalle, or to the top of the mountain where we could see LaSalle before we could get reception again. And then I was able to get in touch with the guy and find out that we had driven way far past where we needed to go. So we were only like 3 miles away from where the mine was when we got back in touch with him. And then we went there, and I'm trying to get them to come up with better group rates so that we can have club field trips. And I've given them a list of all of the clubs. So hopefully they'll come up with that and send it out to everybody. And maybe we can get a club field trip to there. It was $100 an hour. He gave us an extra hour just because we weren't finding much. And the bottom one here is a piece that has obviously some azurite down in there in the middle, and it's got some malachite in it. And the top piece is just a malachite. Those are each about 3 inches long. And these are some of the blueberries and little nuggets of malachite that I picked up. Better blueberries. And there's an azurite.
Wow.
You can see it's only 1.5 inches long, but it's a beautiful little piece. And so after we've done this, we decided that we maybe should ought to think about coming home. So we've spent 8 days out there, 9 different collecting sites, drove 1,600 miles. And here are the keys to a great trip. Good friends, patience, flexibility being the most important thing, and having the time to actually collect. And thanks to Bob Piper and Bob Johnson.
Hey, no problem.
We made it. We survived the trip.
Very nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.